Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm RC Maxfield alongside, well, you know him. It's Michael Crabtree, and then Lyle on the list of the most touchdown passes in Texas Tech football history. This is the Back to 12 podcast. And Lyle, hey, Texas Tech 1-0, my guy. But most importantly, before we get into that conversation, how are you doing and everything like that?
Oh man, blessed to be in your presence. Blessed to be back in the podcast booth. As you can see, we're live and rocking straight off the field. But it's just anytime I get to get on our podcast, talk to my main man and talk some tech football, some tech athletics, man, it's gonna be a good day. So I'm blessed to be in your presence. And as always, CBS, take it easy on my guy ESPN. Skip, I know you're watching too. I need you to back up a little bit and enjoy the podcast from afar.
I'm more than willing to take over Skip's Bayless jobs. I hear it's very lucrative. We can continue the podcast too. Don't worry about that. If that happened, but I'm more than willing to take over at that point. But hey, before we get into the crux of the show, as you could probably tell by the name of the video and also the thumbnail, we will be breaking down a top 25 team that the Red Raiders will be welcoming in. And Lyle may have a little bit of history with a certain head coach that's coming in to the 806 this weekend with the Houston Cougars. But before we get into that, I want to say thank you to getting us to 600 subs. Let's see if we can get to 700.
Thank you.
Before this Houston game. I mean, we just kind of took off the other day. These past two videos are really past three videos we've had have done absolutely outstanding. And that's a credit to everybody watching. So really appreciate it. And before we do that too, Lyle, shout out that Twitter handle real quick so everybody can follow you.
Hey, it's Coach LLEONG. Yes, sir.
There we go. And I'm at RCMB323. And as always, I'll be hosting post-game Twitter spaces over there throughout the season for football and men's basketball. I think I had around 750, 800 people in there on that last one. So that was really cool trying to get to that 1,000 number. And I'm sure it'll happen, especially when it's not Murray State that Texas Tech is playing. But we are giving you daily videos here. Lyle's cooking up an intro. Say less. We're going to have an intro on the videos really soon, and we'll be having Texas Tech videos, not only talking about football, but we know that's what the people want to hear about most. But we're talking about volleyball, soccer, everything in between right here on the channel. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. But Lyle, before we get into the Houston preview part of this, let's talk about the major storyline that was with Texas Tech football this week. Obviously, it's Tyler Shough. We don't know exactly how long he will be out at the time of this recording, but we have a pretty good idea that he will miss at least 3 weeks, if not more. That from Joey McGuire. So that takes him out for 2 top 25 matchups as of right now. Obviously, Houston this week when Texas Tech travels out to Raleigh next week, and then potentially a top 25 team coming in if the Texas Longhorns handle business. But we'll talk about them and how they're going to get destroyed against Alabama this weekend. But when you hear this news for Tyler Shough, your initial reaction for the Texas Tech offense, obviously, you know Zach Kittley very well, and Donovan Smith will take over. What was your initial reaction when you heard the news that Tyler Shough would probably miss a little bit of time for the Red Raiders?
I think for me, mostly it's just being an athlete. He's transferred. He's been through a lot just to see him finally get his chance again. And, I don't think people realize you practice 3/4 of the year to play 1/4 of the year, your games. So when they're taken away from you, you feel bad for the kids. So I definitely felt bad for him. And I know how hard he worked to get in that position, what he's been through with the quarterback battle last year and this year. I feel for the kid, but, overall, I said it in I think one of your spaces that we were on. To me, Kittley's offense is pretty good. And as you saw, I think those quarterbacks, I think, Donovan being a little younger, he has some experience, some growth to do a little bit. But like I said, in that space we had, I think that Kittley's offense, I think he's so smart that those quarterbacks are not that far apart to where Texas Tech still has a chance to be successful with those guys. Now, is there some leadership and stuff that might be missing? I want to say yes. Big games. I don't know if Donovan's been in a big game, quite those big games, but like I said, Kittley's going to set them up to be successful. And as you saw, from coming out being aggressive, from the flea flicker to just the short passes, like that's Kittley. He's gonna keep the defense on their toes. He's gonna put those kids in good positions. And and we talked about it last time. We didn't know who was gonna step up. And as you saw, well, you shouted it out. I got to give you your props. You was on the money. But if you were to go back and especially my man wearing 19, love it. If you were gonna go say, hey, he's gonna have 2 touchdowns before the game, no one would have made that bet. So it was awesome to see some people kind of come out, but it was also good to see Donovan step in that role, and he looked comfortable to me. I thought he did a good job. So what do you think about that?
I thought and I know there's going to be some people that are going to try and call you out that said Donovan Smith hasn't played in a big game. You said that. Well, I mean, compared to Tyler Shough, he really hasn't. Tyler Shough has played for a Pac-12 championship. People got to remember that. Yeah, a bowl game is cool when you're in Memphis in the Liberty Bowl, but there's a difference between the Liberty Bowl and a Pac-12 championship. Very different. And Tyler Shough has started there. So I think the biggest thing for me from the whole entire game, obviously it sucks that Tyler Shough got hurt. I was really looking forward to him in terms of watching him, especially against Houston and North Carolina State. But the biggest thing in terms of a takeaway for me from the offensive side of the football and maybe the entire game was Donovan Smith's footwork and lower half. Like, I'm a nerd when it comes to watching these quarterbacks change very minute things to most people, but you know this too. One of these little small tinkers can take you from an average player to a star. It's that kind of deal. And the thing that I always worried about with Donovan was, what is his footwork going to look like in the pocket? And again, it's Murray State. There wasn't a lot of pressure on him, but just his follow through with his feet, his lower half, actually using his lower half and not just relying on that God-given arm strength, right? He was actually using his lower half. And there was I want to shout him out, Emery, really good stuff. Him and Ryan do a podcast together. He had a thread about Donovan Smith, and there was one throw in particular to Mason Tharp, or Baylor Cup, excuse me, where I was like, that's it. If he can do that, not even just 100% of the time, just 80% of the time, he drove with his lower half. And let's be real, that's where everybody gets their power from, is the lower half. It's the same in baseball. It's the same in basketball. Any sport you play, that is where you get your power. And if your hips are going in the right direction, where does your arm have to go? The same direction, because your body's just one big attached item, right? So I think that was the biggest thing that stood out was, holy crap, his lower half looks a lot different to me. And that's a big deal, because you've already mentioned the Kittley side of things, where Kittley's going to put him in the proper position to succeed, but does he have the tools to implement that success that Kittley is giving him in terms of the playbook? And I think he does. I don't think there's a substantial drop off. And I talked about this in a video over on the channel the other day, that I said, if this was 2 or 3 years ago, the Alan Bowman to Jet Duffy, that's a drastic drop off. But Tyler Shough to Donovan Smith doesn't feel drastic to me. Is there a drop off in the leadership department? Probably, but that's just because Donovan's younger and he hasn't gotten to see all these things. But now you're in the thick of it. There's expectations on you now. They've talked about it all offseason. We've all seen these videos. Hey, they want to win a Big 12 championship. Is that realistic? I don't know. They're going to have to play the games, but these guys think it is. And that's the only thing that matters. If they think it's possible, they're the ones that have the results when it comes down to it. But I think Donovan Smith really showed out in terms of just, hey, he worked this offseason. And there were some things where, that Jerand Bradley second touchdown was like, okay, I could probably make that throw too, when there's, nobody in coverage, right? Anybody should be able to make that throw. But then there's other throws, as I mentioned, the Baylor Cup throw, where he fit it in a triangle of defenders, threw it on a line, threw it right at Baylor Cup's face in terms of right next to it where he could still see it, and allowed Baylor Cup to make a move. And it was all predicated on his footwork and his lower half. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about this Texas Tech offense. In fact, I think really the thing that I'm most interested in watching, and I don't know about you, in this Houston game as we jump into it, is I just want to see the trenches, man. I think both teams have really good outside, plays outside the numbers in terms of personnel, whether that's Henry, the Tech transfer in the backfield for the Cougars, whether that's Nathaniel Dell or Nate Dell, who is just a stud wide receiver for them. And then Carson Toon, who had one bad game last year, and it was against Texas Tech. And then they, just won 11 in a row. But for me, I don't know about you, Lyle, but the thing I am most watching in this Houston game as we jump into it is the trenches, man. I mean, Texas Tech looked really well in the trenches against Murray State, but let's face it, it's an FCS school. There is a drastic jump from Murray State to Houston. Is that something you're watching for as the trenches, or what's the overall matchup between these two teams that you're looking most forward to?
Honestly, I think every game is one, between the trenches. And I'm glad you brought that up about the Murray State game. We used to do that with Coach Leach. We played 3 teams like Murray State, and we beat them pretty good. So I think a lot of people are even us in a sense, but a lot of people are looking at that game, kind of judging that game, and it's not really a game to be judged upon, because that's one of those deals that once the game gets going, it's got other people going. People are doing stuff that they normally wouldn't do. So it's hard to tell. I mean, it's a great win. I think they did a great job, not to take anything away from those guys. But, going against those guys, we were way bigger than them, way stronger, way faster. So definitely moving into the Houston game. I'm anxious to see the trenches too. But really for me, their receivers and our DBs is what I'm most excited to see, because I know.
Imagine that. Are you a wide receiver interested in watching wide receivers?
Man,
Never would have guessed that.
I really like big guys, man. Those are my favorite people. So my offensive coordinator here is an O lineman. Brandon Carter came to our game 2 weeks ago. So the big guys are where my heart is. I eat like them, just not built like them,
That metabolism's coming in clutch.
Yeah, it's about to end though. I'm getting older, brother. It's about to end. So I might be looking like an OL. Usually the O linemen, they look like O linemen in college. Then when they get out, they get real skinny and look like 6'4", 6'5".
It's the opposite for us. Yeah,
Yeah.
like obviously for you, it's obviously a little bit different. You're God knows how many times more athletic than me. But I noticed the other day, I was like, my beer is my vice. I like beer. I'm not afraid to admit it. I like it. And it's starting to get to that point now where I'm like, is that what I think it is coming onto my stomach right now?
Yeah.
And the gym is going to see a lot more of me. I don't know if it'll have an impact, but we'll see what happens. Sorry. Anyway, you're watching the wide receivers and the DBs.
Yeah, man. I know how I know Hogs a little bit, and I know what he's gonna try to do. I know he's excited about this game. We got Brandon Jones is there. He played for Texas Tech as well. He's the offensive coordinator and O-line coach. So I mean, this game means a little more, I think, to them. If you ask them, I'm sure they'll tell you it's another game that they play. But I know it means something. Lubbock and Texas Tech has had a big part of their lives, and I wouldn't be surprised if Hogs came out and came out aggressive, did some trick plays. I wouldn't be surprised. So I know he has a little bit of love. He'll never tell anybody, sorry, Hogs. But I know he has a little bit of love for Texas Tech as well as Brandon Jones. So I'm just excited to see if we're able. I think in the trenches, we kind of got those guys that are able to compete. But I want to see, like you said, my man Dale, I know he's an outstanding receiver. I want to see, I know Dana's going to find ways to try to get that young man the ball. And even I like the other guy. His name is Golden was his last name. I thought he did a good job. I thought he was solid. He's a freshman. So it's going to be probably one of the biggest games he's been into. So I think for Texas Tech, I'm excited to see that, but I kind of feel like this is a trap game for us too. If you watched last week going into triple overtime with UTSA, you kind of think, well, man, maybe they're not that good. But people got to understand a win is a win. Whether you win by 1 point, overtime, 100 points, a win is a win. And these guys are going to come, I promise you, with a different type of excitement. I know it's going to go through Hogs onto his team, onto the field. And it's a lot more connections, behind the scenes that even people don't know. I saw Dana's old director of football operations guy. He actually works for Coach McGuire now. So I saw him at the game on Saturday. So it's a lot of underlining connections throughout there. And I'm excited to see what they do. I think for Texas Tech, they've got to be, the younger guys have got to learn how to kind of take that excitement. I'm sure it's going to be sold out. 24, they're ranked 24 team. And
I'll be there.
Yeah, I'll be there too. So I'm sure they're going to be excited. It's just how can we come and weather the storm, because there's going to be adversity. That's just a part of the game, and how they respond to me is the difference. But I can promise you Houston's coming with it, and Dana's going to be ready to go.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Dana. Obviously, you've got strong connections working with him, and obviously he was at Tech as well for a while. So, I mean, he answered that question without even having me ask. So there we go. That's what we love to see. That's the duo of this. That's what you're supposed to do on the podcast. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
You're like Jordan, I like Pippen.
There we go. Well, wait. Did you say you were MJ?
No, I'm Pippen. 33, brother.
No,
I'm
you
just
should flip that.
assisting you. You carry the show. I'm just assisting you. That's it.
You should 1000% flip that. If anything, you're MJ and I'm like the water boy. But on this, on the storylines you talked about, there's a lot going on, and Matt Dowdy, the SID for Texas Tech football, does a phenomenal job of getting the game notes out. Just honestly so fast. I don't know how he has this amount of time just to find some of the stats he has, but some of these stood out to me. And this is from TexasTech.com, the football aspect of it and their game preview. It'll be the first nationally ranked non-conference opponent to visit Jones AT&T Stadium since when, Lyle?
I would say 2000. I'd say 2006.
2002 when Phillip Rivers came in.
Hey, and I do want to say this. That's one thing, and I love Leach, and I know people are probably going to get really mad at me for saying this, but I have to say it. That's one thing. Like, we made a bowl game. We went 8-5, every year. But people fail to realize we played 3 teams like Weber State, South Dakota State. We played 3 teams.
You paid those paycheck schools.
Yeah, we paid 3 teams each year. So I think I think Texas Tech kind of got away from that. We played some better teams as the later season came, like right after we got done. And I think people fail to realize that. So Leach is, like I said, one of the greatest coaches I've ever been coached by. I love getting to play for him, but I think people fail to realize 3 games a year were gimmies. Everybody knew these 3 games we were getting in the game. So I'm glad you said that, and that's a cool fact. Sorry, go ahead, RC, my bad.
No, you're good. By the way, real quick, is Phillip Rivers a Hall of Famer? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. What do you think?
I agree. I think so. Probably borderline, though.
Borderline. Sure.
Saturday's game, the first game of the Joey McGuire era, was the largest home crowd since 2018 when Texas came in, and the most attended home opener since 2016. Texas Tech has also won 4 straight in the series against the Cougars and 9 of the last 10 meetings, including obviously last year. I found this one super interesting, though. The Red Raiders will be looking to knock off a top 25 opponent for the first time since 2019. Feels weird to say that, but the last time that they won a game against a ranked opponent, do you know where it was? It wasn't in Lubbock. I'll give you that hint.
Was it in Baylor?
No, it was in Stillwater.
Oh.
They never win in Stillwater.
Never. You know what? And that's funny you say that, because we beat Oklahoma State twice at home, lost 2 times Stillwater, beat Oklahoma twice at home, lost 2 times at Norman. That's facts.
You just don't win in Stillwater. You just don't. Historically, I mean, it's just the truth. And obviously, there you go.
Stands are too close. NCAA needs to go visit that. That's part.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, it also Colorado's like that too. I realized that watching the TCU game last Friday.
And I got to tell you, Colorado's stadium. Sorry, Mom. It smelled like marijuana. Not that I've ever done it. I smelled it there. Their stadium smells like they are out there just.
Boulder is Boulder is a let's just say it's a vibe. If you go that way, it's a vibe.
I couldn't even focus.
I like it it's a great college town. But it's a vibe. Let's just say it that way. We talked about the trenches. Again, I think that that's where this game will be dictated. You talked about the outside aspect of it. And I think that'll be interesting. You get Adrian Fry back in this one, who had a thigh bruise, but he's expected to play according to Joey McGuire. I think the biggest thing, outside of Tyler Shuck, and I know this could be taken out of context, but there was no major injury outside of that, which is obviously a substantial blow, right? That's QB1. I get it. But in terms of just like the aspect of, okay, what's arguably the deepest position group on your team? Quarterback is one of them. So I Obviously, it sucks it happened, but you go into Houston relatively healthy with a guy at the quarterback position that you trust in Donovan Smith. Now, the guys that I'm going to watch for this U of H team, it doesn't even involve the trenches. It actually involves one of those guys I mentioned earlier, Nate Dell. This was just by far the craziest stat I saw about Houston this last year. So in 2021, Nate Dell accounted for 1,329 of Tune's 3,546 passing yards. That's over 37%.
Yeah.
That is wild. Like, I get it's college football and it happens, but that is wild. But the thing is he didn't stop there. He obviously had a great start to the season against UTSA, where he had 5 catches, 50 yards, and 2 TDs. Obviously, he's catching the ball from senior quarterback Carson Tune. We've talked about him a little bit. But overall, when you look at this matchup, Lyle, and you think to yourself, okay, is Texas Tech that far off from Houston? Obviously, you need to give the respect to that. But when you look at it, you're going into this game, realistic expectations for Texas Tech in this one. What's the first thing that comes to mind outside of obviously what you're watching for? But what's the first thing that comes to mind in terms of, hey, Tech needs to win this first and foremost in order to beat the number 25 Cougars?
I definitely think it's just for them momentum. Like you get the Jones rocking, it's so different because that's one thing I'll say, and I know, like I say, I'm sorry, folks, they're probably gonna be mad at me, but that's the thing. If we get behind, sometimes the fans aren't always in it, and that's at a lot of stadiums too. But at Tech, I know there's been games where we've been down 21 and it's not, the crowd is not there. And there's been games, like I said, when we're in it, the crowd gives that extra boost. And I know a lot of people probably haven't got to experience 70,000 people, but 70,000 people screaming for you, it makes a big difference. It gives you that extra adrenaline to make that play, to do whatever. So I think for me, it's starting fast and building that momentum. I think if we allow Houston to be like, hey, we can play with them, I think that's where we might run into some problems. But coming off an overtime game, hopefully they're a little tired, a little banged up, and they're kind of finding confidence, thinking, I'm sure they thought, hey, we're gonna go beat UTSA by 21 points, and then for them to go in triple overtime, I'm kind of hoping their confidence level is a little down, and we could get that momentum from the get-go, from the jump, and kind of maybe make them turn it down a little bit. But I think the crowd is what's gonna push us over the edge. I don't. What are you thinking?
No, I think the crowd is a big aspect of it too. For me, attack that secondary. I think the Houston secondary is their weak part of their defense. They have a good defensive line. It always seems like they have 1 or 2 guys that just go on to have really good careers at the next level. Whether that's Ed Oliver, the guy that got drafted a couple years ago, his name escapes me, that kind of surprised people. That was a first-round pick from the Ravens. But their secondary let up 337 passing yards against UTSA. And I get it. That's in triple overtime and everything like that. But I think that Texas Tech really presents an issue for not only Houston, but a lot of schools that they're going to face. And you've seen this transition in secondaries where they want more rangy, lengthy guys, right? But there's only so much length you can have when you got a Loic Fungi who's, 6'3", 6'4" out there. Jerron Bradley's almost 6'7", 6'6", in that range. You got Mason Tharp, who conservatively is 6'9". I'll see this weekend standing next to him. He might be the size of Dirk Nowitzki out there, like no joke. Baylor Cupp, tall. Henry Teeter, tall. But not to mention you got speed guys out there like Miles Price. You got Brady Boyd, who's got a little bit of size to him as well. You've got guys, Trey Cleveland, that can come out there. I want to see Donovan Smith not be afraid to throw those 50-50 balls. And I'll say this too. I'm not going to get upset if he throws a pick or two, especially if it's in one of those situations, because I think when Texas Tech has a 50-50 ball type situation, and let's say it's just a standard corner for Houston that's, 5'11", 6 foot, and he's throwing a ball up to Jerron Bradley, that's not a 50-50 ball to me. That's like a 75-25 ball, and Bradley better be coming down with it, because when you're 6'5", that athletic, and you have that height advantage and the wingspan advantage, you've got to take advantage of that. So obviously the turnover battle will be big, and I know I sound like a hypocrite saying, hey, he can throw a couple of picks. But I think there's going to be turnovers in this game, unlike last week where Tech had the lone turnover. Tech has to get at least a couple, and I think that they will. I'm curious to see if they're in Toon's head a little bit after what happened last year where he threw 4 picks down in Houston. It'll be super interesting to watch, but that's really what I'm watching, the trenches. And then Donovan Smith just being aggressive with those big wide receivers on the outside. Lyle mentioned that he's watching the wide receivers in the corners. Imagine that, world-class wide receiver at Texas Tech wants to watch wide receivers. I know you're mostly love the trenches. I know that, but still, you see where I'm going at. Give me a prediction, though, for score here. Texas Tech over Houston, Houston over Texas Tech. You tell me.
I'm going to go Texas Tech. I'm going to go 28-24.
28-24. So you're going well under the over-under.
Yeah.
I'm going over.
You going over?
Yeah, I got 38-30 Tech.
That's nice. I feel like, from both sides, I feel like we talked about in previous podcasts, not everybody, but a lot of people excel when they have 3 people on craft. When those people leave and you get the attention, it changes things. So I'm interested to see Dale. Like, everyone knows who they're trying to get the ball to. So then it comes down to your teammates. What teammate is going to show up to take some of the pressure off you? And when your teammate does good and they take someone off you, then it allows you to go back. And same with Texas Tech. I think people fail to realize quarterback gets all that, but the guys have to make, like you said, 50-50 ball. If they're not coming up with it, is that a bad throw by Donovan, or is that our guys not making plays? And so I think that's the part that, that's the part I'm anxious to see. Of course, the trenches, we got to, but if you can't run and it's 3rd and 5 and we throw the ball up, who's going to make that play? Or how are we going to get, how is Dana going to get Dale open? Because they're going to find him. They're going to know who he is. And
no doubt.
like I said, and so that's what I'm anxious to see. I think for us, we've got to make those plays, and they've got to make those plays. And that's why, for me, I'm interested to see. And that's why I kept the score so low, because even last year, they had a total passing yard. I mean, he had 206 passing yards, but he was 22 for 32, And so I'm excited to see that. And I think they're going to have to make plays. I think the trenches are going to kind of take care of themselves. I think we'll have a little bit of an advantage. I think our running backs are better than their running backs, but I think it's going to come down to, can we spread them out and make plays and then open it up? And so, running back, it was opened up because we was bombing it down the field. People were scoring touchdowns, making catches. So if they don't make plays, they're going to load that box up because they know our running back had a really good game, 3 touchdowns last game, and he can go. So they know. So I'm excited to see.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be interesting to see where they line Dell up, and they're going to move him all over the place. But I think the individual matchup I'm most curious to see, especially if they put Dell in the slot, is Rabbit. I want to see Taylor Demerson against him and see exactly what happens there in terms of, hey, how are they matching that up? Or do they move Adrian Fry around, or do they move Rashad Williams, Malik Dunlap, how that works out? But going to be super interesting to watch. Yeah, Lyle has Texas Tech winning 28-4, has them covering the spread. Good teams cover. I have Texas Tech winning 38-30, and that leads into my Big 12 bets of the week. Lyle, I went 6-3-1 in week 1. That's a good start. We'll take that every day of the week. So and tell me if you agree or disagree with any of these bets that I'm actually doing this week. So here we go. I've got the over on Texas Tech and Houston. Obviously, you've got the under. The over-under is set at 65.5. I have 68 total points. You have 52. You're going well under. So whoever you trust on that front, go for it. I got Alabama covering the -20 against Texas. I think they just blow the doors off of them. They're just not ready. They are not ready for this. Kansas State, I got the -8.5 versus Missouri. That's at home in Manhattan. I am taking K-State in that one. Are you taking Missouri? Oh, spicy. Don't agree with me on that one. Okay. I like it. I'm going to mark that down. I'm going to say Lyle's taking Missouri.
I don't know how I feel about K-State.
I love K-State this year. Even I think they look pretty well. To be fair, it was against South Dakota. So there's that. Iowa plays Iowa State. I've got Iowa covering the -3. I think Iowa just is. They just know how to muck the game up.
They do.
And they're very, very good at it. And they know how to ball control everything. And Deckers just won't have the chance to score because 7-3. But no, it wasn't a touchdown, Lyle. No, it was 2 safeties and a field goal because Iowa football, Big Ten football, just unbelievable. And then Kansas at West Virginia, I've got the over there. Neither team can play defense, so let's just put some points on the board. Oklahoma plays Kent State. I've got the Sooners covering the -32. Just sorry, they're going to blow them out. Then Arizona State goes to Stillwater. The number 12 Cowboys welcome the Sun Devils in. I've got the over in that one. That was the biggest shock of the week in terms of the Big 12 for me, was Oklahoma State's regression defensively. And we know it was Jim Knowles that was the key component there, because look what he did at Ohio State. Ohio State is a legit title contender, even more so than I thought beforehand with how he had that defense looking. I've got Baylor plus the 2.5 going to Provo, playing the number 24, I believe, BYU Cougars now. I believe the Cougars just flipped this week. And then Tarleton goes to Fort Worth to face TCU. I'm going the under 63. I just don't think TCU lets Tarleton score. Yeah.
Tarleton, that just came up to D1?
Yeah. They're in Fort Worth this weekend.
Oh,
I'm going the under, though, because I don't think Tarleton scores. I think TCU wins like 56-3.
I agree with that.
That's kind of where I'm going. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my bets down below in the comments. Again, I'll post them over on Twitter too here in the next couple of days. Hell, if you're going to be in Lubbock this weekend, I will be too. Obviously, Lyle will be there. We're going to meet up, hopefully have a couple beers, cervezas, or is what the kids call them nowadays. If you see us, come say hi. We'll let you know where we're at, obviously on Twitter. And once again, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay in the know on everything Texas Tech. We're giving you daily videos. We're going to have a kick-ass intro here in a little bit, and we're going to have some former players on here and have some great interviews that Lyle is setting up. Lyle, remind the people where they can find you on Twitter.
Hey, Coach LLEONG. No blue check.
Hey, there we go. And you can find me on Twitter at RCMB323. And yes, there is a blue check mark next to my name.
That's the sound of a goat, ladies and gentlemen. That's the sound of a goat.
I couldn't tell if it was a sheep or a goat, but I'll take the goat any day of the week. He's Lyle. I'm RC. We appreciate you tuning into the Back to 12 podcast. One more reminder, hit that big red button right here and help us get to 700 before this top 25 team comes into Lubbock, Texas, and hopefully Joey McGuire can get his first top 25 win as a head coach with Donovan Smith as QB1. We'll catch y'all next time. He's Lyle. I'm RC. Appreciate y'all tuning in to the Back to 12 podcast here on the Back to 12 podcast YouTube channel.